I dreamed I was at a party. I have had dreams like this before, but something was off. Everyone was mad at me. Josh, Canyon, and Leo were playing games at the table. I could feel their hatred towards me, their glare saying, "You don't belong here." Fine, I should leave. I called a cab and tried to give them Shannon's address, but she wouldn't give it to me. I went outside to look for the street name. It was completely black outside, save for the walkway I stood on. Where were the street lights? Where was the street? Frustrated, I decided to Uber, as the app would already know my location. Ding. My phone matched with Michael, who would be driving and arriving in a black Toyota. He drove up a few minutes later. Opening the back door, I climbed inside. Michael greeted me and confirmed my home address that Uber had saved. As we drove away, I looked back to the house and saw only the front windows. Josh, Shannon, and Leo all stood there, wide-eyed. They looked generally afraid of something. I was expecting smirks as their least favorite friend drove away, but instead all their mouths were shaped into an O. I didn't puzzle it for too long. Screw them for kicking me out. Michael was a bigger guy. He wasn't fat, but really thick with muscle. He had short brown hair and talked animatedly, with his free hand not on the steering wheel. I couldn't see his face. He never turned around. Whatever. All I wanted to do was go home and go to bed. I just needed to get home. I must have drifted to sleep, for when I woke up, there were two more bodies in the car: Michael's wife, thin, petite woman, and their son. Their son was in the passenger seat, and his wife was next to me in the back seat. They were discussing mundane chores on their to-do list. I couldn't see any of their faces because all of their backs were towards me. His wife kept looking outside when she spoke. Why couldn't I see their faces? Michael pulled onto my street and parked in front of my house. I thanked him and opened the door, ready to escape this clown car. I had stepped out of the car and was about to shut the door when all three people turned towards me. I wouldn't have even noticed if I didn't turn back to grab my phone. They had no faces. There was only a blank, fleshy surface where their eyes and nose should have been. The only resemblance of a human was a jack-o'-lantern mouth cut side to side with long white teeth. I screamed and ran up to my house without shutting their door. My house was unlocked, speeding up the time for my escape. Crouching down on the floor after locking the door, I contemplated what to do. Should I call the cops? What were they? Had they already driven away? I ran to my room and in the darkest part of the house, peered out of the blinds. Fuck. The car sat still with all four doors closed. I couldn't see inside their tinted windows, but I knew they were staring at me. I could feel it. The dream ended, thank God. I awoke and relief swept over me. My boyfriend snored next to me and I could hear our cat walking around the house. Thank God. I thought about waking up Jason to comfort me, but I didn't want to bother him. He looked so peaceful. Jesus, I've never had a nightmare like that before. I looked at my phone, which read 4:44 a.m. After a Google search, it appeared that anxiety and depression are causes of nightmares. Fantastic. Maybe it was my remaining paranoia, but I could have sworn there were scratches at my window. Were there tree branches out there? I can't remember. In the hallway, the cat was still moving. Was she meowing? What was she doing? I thought of checking on her, but I was still scared for my dream. I just needed to fall back asleep and wake up when it's daylight. I lay there for a few more moments, covering my body with more blankets. There was still scratching at my window. Was the cat meowing? Jason lay there snoring. This is insane. I'm just being paranoid. Nothing is wrong. With false confidence, I kneeled up on my bed to peer out the blinds. What was that scratching? There must be tree branches outside. I don't remember a tree being there. After taking a deep breath, I looked outside. My blood immediately ran cold. There, on the street, was a Toyota, exactly like the one from my dream. I screamed, waking up Jason. He couldn't understand what I was saying through my panic attack. All I heard him was, "There's a parked car outside." He decided to pull open the blinds completely and see what I was so frightened of. I screamed at him not to, but his hand already grabbed the drawstring. He and I both looked at the parked Toyota on the street. Jason, not understanding the problem, he told me I just had a bad dream and to go back to bed. It was just a coincidence. That's all it was. The cat was meowing quietly. Did Jason hear her? I can remember if the deadbolt was locked on the front door. Jason would not come with me to check. He said everything was fine and that I was being crazy. Then he started to snore again. I had to do it. I wouldn't be able to sleep otherwise. I crouched below the window's line of sight in my bedroom and started to walk down the hallway. Where did the cat go? There was a window in the hallway that I stopped to peek out of. The blinds were closed, but a little gap between the blind and the window made the street visible. To my horror, the car door had opened. It was exactly how I left it in my dream. No, 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 no. This can't be happening. Am I still dreaming? This feels like reality. I just had to make sure the door is locked and I'll go back to bed. I tiptoed further down the hallway and rounded the corner to face the front door. Our front windows were completely exposed. Jason must have left the blinds pulled up. I could see everything outside. I wanted to vomit. There were three humanoid forms walking backwards towards the house. They must have exited the vehicle in the few seconds I passed from the hallway. Every time I took a step towards the door, so did they. It was eerie. They were all in sync. The three beings from my dream existed in reality. Still, I was convinced that they couldn't hurt me if the door was locked. I could see the deadbolt undone. We each had one step left before reaching the door. I jumped towards it and scrambled to deadbolt the lock. When I did, they turned around. They had no faces. I screamed. I must have passed out, for when I came to, I was in a hospital. Jason told me he had found me unconscious with the front door wide open. I tried to explain what happened, but no words came out. He said he would stay with me all night while the doctors ran a few more tests. They needed to make sure I was fine before returning home. Eventually, Jason drifted to sleep in the corner chair. Who were those people? And what did they want? Maybe there was something wrong with me? Maybe I'm hallucinating. Yes, that must be it. I suddenly became aware of how thirsty I was and clicked the call button for my hospital bed. As I lay there waiting for the nurse, I looked around the room. My window had a small view of the parking lot. It was early in the morning and the sun started to shine through. The parking lot was quiet and empty. I thought gleefully. A hospital shouldn't be a busy place, huh? In the far corner of the parking lot was a vehicle with one of its doors open. I squinted, trying to make out what I was seeing. Was that a black Toyota? Before I could study the parking lot more, my door opened. In came the nurse, walking backwards towards me.